Welcome to Oromia Media Network English News Bulletin. I am one of your English anchors. My name is Toltu Tufa with our technician Adil Osman. Today's news bulletin is headlined with the following reports. Civil Oromo youth movements stage embassy protests around the world to highlight Ethiopia's human rights abuses. Kenyan journalist Yasin Juma is released from Ethiopian prison after contracting COVID-19 during his detainment. Ethiopian military forces unleash killings on innocent children in Oromia. And now for today's news. Kenyan journalist Yasin Juma has been released from Ethiopian incarceration. Imprisoned for 48 days following the murder of Oromo icon Hachalu Hundesa, Juma was initially released, again rearrested, imprisoned, beaten, and then exposed to uncontrolled cases of COVID-19. After Juma tested positive to the virus, the Attorney General's Office of Ethiopia commented on his case, suggesting his inadvertent arrest of the Kenyan national was due to a language barrier. Mr. Juma reported feeling positively overwhelmed by the support from the Oromo community, who are often the subjects of his reports. In a statement released to the public, Mr. Juma states, "The Oromo community offered brilliant lawyers to represent me in court at zero fee, and they won the case. I cannot thank you enough for this selfless act. I was asked by the Kenyan government if they could arrange for my legal representatives with a lawyer from Nairobi. But I told my government the Oromo nation will take care of my legal representation. They have my back, and I trust them 100%. I am currently joined by one of the campaign organisers who advocated for Mr. Juma's release. Mr. Abba Murti, welcome to Oromia Media Network English broadcast. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
No worries. Mr. Juma is currently released from Ethiopian imprisonment. To your understanding, where is he at the moment, and can you provide us an update on his health?
Juma is right now. He's at the isolation facility in Finfinne, where he's recuperating from COVID, which he contracted while in detention. And of course, during his rearrest, he was sustained serious injuries on his back and also broken his wrist. He's nursing, and once he gets discharged, he's looking forward to see a physician. As of right now, during the first week of contracting COVID, he complained of throbbing headache and a perennial headache, but right now he's slowly but surely recovering.
That's really good to hear. The reason for Mr. Juma's arrest and detainment, according to Ethiopia's Attorney General, was due to a mistaken language barrier. Is anybody aware of precisely the nature of this language barrier that resulted in him being imprisoned and sustaining the serious injuries that you mentioned earlier?
I think the Ethiopian government saying that it is because of language barrier that detained Juma is quite laughable. That is a mere excuse that no one could accept. To me and to many others, Juma's detention was politically motivated. And it is for the same reason that they had to keep him in detention for 48 solid days. And that tells you that it was more of a political than of accidental or a language barrier. If the language barrier was the reason, they couldn't have detained him. They couldn't have, humiliated him. They couldn't have exposed him to COVID. And it wouldn't take them 48 days for them to determine his innocence. And what worries me the most again is that Juma wasn't arrested once. He was arrested twice. And when he was arrested twice, the regime and the court tried to initiate trumped-up charges against him, but they terribly failed at producing evidence. It is because of their failure that they eventually had to release him. But again, they didn't even release him. I could tell you for free that Juma would still be languishing in detention like many other Oromo detainees and the journalists, but he was only released because of diplomatic interventions from the Kenyan government and also from the social media campaigns and pressure from human rights organizations. And it is only because of that his life he was saved. Otherwise, he would have died or continue languishing in detention.
Speaking of outside intervention, you've been involved in developing a GoFundMe campaign to support Mr. Juma's family during his imprisonment. What is it about Mr. Juma's story in particular that motivated you to get involved in starting a campaign?
I think this is a very interesting question. To begin with, Yasin Juma is a man who he was the first foreign journalist to highlight the Oromo struggle for justice after his documentary that he made in 2009. This was a man who, when he was bribed by the then Malal Zenawi to kill that story, to do away with that story, he declined the offer of like 15 million Kenyan shillings, which is a huge money at the time. This was a man who decided and dedicated his skills, like as a journalist, to highlight, to talk about the Oromos, to amplify the voice of the Oromo people as a journalist. And he's a very dedicated and disciplined journalist. And